Hello and welcome to NONI, Yanga's flagship talk show, where we discuss the topics that you, our viewers at home, are talking about just a little bit louder. I'm Amina Taylor, and today we'll be discussing whether many immigrants and second-generation Brits harbour a secret desire to return to the countries of origin. But could you really do it? So let me introduce my guests. Joining me on today's show are the screenwriter and producer, Babi Sako, social commentator, Kelechi Anikude, and the artist, Jay Lively. Welcome, everybody. Good to have you here with us. Wonderful to see you all resplendent today. Now, a recent study has shown that nearly a third of immigrants in Western Europe intend to spend part of the year in their host country and the rest back home when they retire. Western European countries, which recruited immigrants heavily from the 1950s, the 60s, and the 70s, are seeing many of these individuals approaching retirement age. And as they do, their thoughts return to their home countries, where the idea of enjoying a warmer climate, this together with higher purchasing power and those lovely pensions and savings, well, that can all be very attractive. But is this something you could really do? Our parents and even some of us battled racial discrimination and prejudice whilst working on sociable hours to make the dreams of a new life in this adopted land come true. Many of us have been British for longer than we've been any other nationalities, and surely their countries would have moved on without us and without them. Many of us would have kids and possibly grandkids in school, and would you really want to leave all of this behind? Or is there a dream of returning and sharing your knowledge and your expertise to make your homeland better? Guys, we've got to get right in there. I've got to say, Babi, have you ever harbored that dream or known someone who took that chance?
I haven't harbored that dream myself, but I have known people who have travelled back home, and even my mum, she went back to Africa after 20 years to visit it, and for her it was, you know, a long dream of hers because she left there being young, and now that we've all grown up, I feel that she feels that, yeah, she can go back and visit home and see how that is. So yeah, I believe it's possible, and I believe that if you want to do it, you should definitely do it.
So she visited,
yeah,
but showed no interest in making a permanent?
Yes, not permanent, but I know people who are at an older age that are moving back to live there permanently in different places, whether it's the Caribbean or Africa, and I think for them, it's still home. If I was to leave England now and go and live somewhere for 20, 30 years, England to me will still be home, so I'll still want to come back. So I think once you have that in you, you always want to return home.
Kelechi, you're obviously representing the motherland there, but yes, do you ever think there might be a time when London can no longer contain you?
No, I mean, I actually go back often. I go back once or twice a year, so I always keep in touch with the motherland. That's very important.
But you're a tourist there now.
I'm not a tourist, I live here, but I think this whole moving back thing is actually not age specific. You also have millennials, you have the younger ones moving back, and I can take, for instance, the trending guy, Burna Boy, Tiwa Savage. They were all born here, or they all grew up here. They moved back to Nigeria, and they made it actually in Nigeria. So it's not actually age specific. It's not about retirement or anything. If you feel you can make impact and you can, we call it blowing from there, then why not? You can move back and do whatever you want to do, or you can have best of both worlds, which I tend to have most times, you know, because what I do, some of my work comes from Nigeria, some here, so I'm always shuttling. So yeah, I can. For me, I can live anywhere, I'm fine. But in the future, maybe I might move back.
Jay, in France, they call these guys the comers and goers, the ones who dip in and out of, you know, 1 foot here, 1 foot there. But there is a distinct difference between somebody who makes that journey, as and when, whatever suits their economic status, and somebody who decides their base will be somewhere different now. Yeah. Have you ever considered that?
Not really myself, I'll be honest. For me, I just feel like this is where I was born, this is where I'm accustomed to. But I do know that my dad has had sort of the notion of moving back as idealistic, and I feel like he did try to, he attempted to, but I think as the world has evolved, it's not as easy as it used to be to move back to your homeland and to settle there, because I feel like maybe growing up, it was a very simple approach to life. But I feel like now, as we evolve, you know, technologically and, you know, socially, I think it's not as easy as our parents or people who, you know, are first generation.
Without going too much into your business, but going into your business, why did your father find it a difficult assimilation process or a re-assimilation process?
Because I think it's hard to make money anywhere, to be honest.
Did he have the vision that somehow,
yeah, most definitely,
coming from London,
yeah,
he'd have the good ideas?
Yeah, and to be honest, the notion that I grew up believing is that if you save up a good amount of money here and work here, you can build an amazing life in Africa. But to be honest, as I said, as the world has evolved, I don't think it's as easy as we thought it used to be, because I think that the price of land, the price of materials, the price of...
Because they're no fools anymore. People know the worth of their stuff.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So that's the only person I really know that thought about moving back.
So, Babi, is this a situation where so many of us have perhaps outdated vision of what back home is and what back home means? For example, when my mom was making that trip back home, and she left here about 10 years ago, she spends the majority of her time in Jamaica, but she still has the outlet of, you know, coming here for the summer or whatever, when the weather is quite nice. But if you are in a position where you've invested every last cent in moving to a place that you last lived in 30 or 40 years ago, are you kind of kidding yourself about knowing what it's like there?
But I feel that anyone who will make the move will visit there before actually making the move. So I don't feel that anyone who wants to move abroad permanently back home will just get up and leave. I definitely believe that there'll be a lot of trips taken back home, and just to see how it is, you know, what the current status of the country is, money, economics, family, and then make that move. So I don't feel that they're going back with an outdated mentality. I feel that anyone who's making the move is definitely doing their research first.
Kelechi Arwido.
I mean, I tend to agree with her. I mean, you have to do your research first, but again, people might not be able to fit into the system because there's a different system in Nigeria, and you know, maybe things are not really organized like in Britain. But that's why you see someone like your mom, you know, going and then coming back for the summer for her medicals, and then she goes back to live the normal life in Jamaica. So that's how it is. So she's having the best of both worlds, you know. But things are not really straightforward there. So like she said, you need to go back often, make sure that things, you can live there, you can, you know, and make sure that, I mean, most of our parents probably have lost their fathers and mothers and their brothers and blah, blah, blah. So make sure that you have enough family to probably cater for.
Because it can be isolated.
Yeah, exactly.
You're going back to a place now that you remember one way, but actually running around the village with your 6 brothers or whatever, when one's in Canada, one's in New York, you know, your friends have moved away. It's a new system completely.
Yeah, it's a new system completely. That's why she said you need to go back often, and I'm sure these Nigerian parents and even youths have made friends, you know, in back in Nigeria, whether it was in school in the UK or maybe they went back to do their youth service. You know, they must have made friends and then weigh the options and then have gone back. And you know, if it doesn't work, you can always come back to Great
What would
Britain.
convince you to change your mind, Jay, and say, you know what, I could do this?
I think I have to be a lot older. I think I would have had to traveled the world a little bit, because fair enough, that is my heritage, that's where I come from, that's where my soul really lies, but there are so many parts of the world that I want to visit and explore and possibly settle in. And to be honest, I love my country, but it scares me a little bit.
Tell me about that.
It scares me. Essentially, to be someone who's grown up here my whole life, the way of life that I know is, if I'm honest, I'm quite privileged. You know, I'm quite privileged to have had free education, to be able to walk down the street and no fear of being kidnapped, or, you know, no fear of being treated unfairly by the police or by local authorities, or, you know, fear of corruption and the sort of things and the sort of themes that we see in Nigeria. And to be honest, I wouldn't really know my way around. The only way that I could move back is to move back with my parents who have grown up there, who know their way around. And to me, it's just not an idealistic way to live in Nigeria. And that's just my honest opinion.
Panel, is part of what we're dealing with here are sometimes young people like ourselves and then the generation like our parents who might have remembered a gentler time. Maybe distance and age and timing is, you know, made you remember the good stuff, maybe not remember the other stuff. And is some of this a little bit of kind of first world privilege, where somehow we expect to go into a space and that space needs to mold itself to our needs, as opposed to we going into that space and actually being realistic about what we're finding. For example, Kelechi, when you go home or you visit the continent, what are some of the things you're noting that, oh man, in London I could have got this like that, and now I'm having to negotiate these different avenues to get the same thing done? But, you know, maybe you'd be doing that in the sunshine, and it's so much better to wait 3 hours for a bank appointment when it's a chilled vibe.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's boiled down to the system, but I'm lucky enough that, I mean, I grew up in Nigeria, so I still know the system.
Yeah.
You know, I still know the system. So, in as much as I want to influence them with my London British values and, you know, this stuff, if it's not working, I have to join the Nigerian system for it to work for me. So, but I'm always there to dominate the space and make impact, and that's why I'm there. And the little impact I make, no problems. But again, it's difficult. Sometimes maybe you're in traffic and someone is beating traffic and you know that here you can't do that. You're just, well, man, they're doing it. You're like, okay. It's like, I'm gonna join them. You know, I kind of think that I can't come and kill myself. You understand? But you know, we try to change those norms. But if it's not changeable, like you said, it's quite difficult. But I still believe that one can survive there and make it there. For instance, she's an artist. I believe that she can actually make it more in Nigeria.
That's global, yeah. All right, we need to take a short break, but when we come back, I'll be asking my panel, after feeling like outsiders when they originally came here, would immigrants retiring and returning home be simply repeating the process? See you after the break. Welcome back to NONI with me, Amina Taylor, and my very special guest, Babi Isaka, Dr. Kelechi Anyikude, and Jay Lively. So before the break, I was asking these guys that when it comes down to it, do many immigrants harbor a secret desire to return to their countries of origin? And when the chips are down, could they really do it? Now, panel, there's a massive difference, of course, between returning home as a visitor for a family celebration or a holiday and relocating for good. And in the Jamaican Gleaner recently, a member of the Windrush generation who'd retired and gone back claimed they felt as though they had a target on their back. She went on to say that she felt ostracized by the community, and it was also being a target for people convinced that her and her family were wealthy and were either trying to rip them off or to rob them. So, are nostalgic memories enough to build a homecoming on? And after feeling like outsiders here in the UK, would they simply be repeating the process when they went back home? There's a lot to unpick there, but first of all, I just want to talk about these unrealistic expectations by us when we go to a place that we have some kind of connections with, Babi.
Yeah, I think having family there is very, very important.
For the real story.
Yeah, for the real story, for the real experience, and just to know the people who are around you and how people's mindset have changed. I feel that if you're going back home and you don't have family, I think that's when you're setting yourself up, really, because you haven't lived there for 20 years, you don't know how the country's changed. Although you visited there back and forth, you don't really know the real experience. But whereas if you have family who have been there and you've been in communication with them, they can actually tell you, well, no, don't do this, this has changed, or, just teaching you how to live there again, should I say. And
Jay, what happens sadly when the family that you're supposed to be having as your kind of northern star, your guiding light in the country, are actually part of the problem? For example, when you were here, you used to be the go-to guy for the Western Union. A little send me something for school, a little such and such is wrong with my car. We've all heard these stories. And when you go back, all of a sudden you're of no value anymore because you are Jay down here with the rest of us. And maybe they're even thinking you're not sharing like you should.
Well, I think at this stage where if, for example, hypothetically, I was to move back, I would only be relying on the advice and the guidance of grown adults. And everyone needs to take responsibility for themselves.
Right.
And to be honest, over here, I think there is a lot of pressure. And a lot of people think that this is the land of milk and honey, but people don't realize that it's just as hard. Well, maybe not, in the same, it doesn't equate to the same suffering.
But the grind is real.
But the grind is real, exactly. And we all have to make ends meet. So for me, I just feel like even if I was to go there and if I become of no use to people anymore, I think that's even better for me. Because in hindsight, I think the attraction moving back home is the simplistic way of living.
Yeah.
The peace of living over in Nigeria, wherever your respective home is, not having anything like council tax or road tax or, all of these extra things that we have to adhere to living here. I'd rather go over there and be useless. Of course, be useful to myself, but be useless to the rest of them.
Kelechi, there's also something very real about maybe sometimes the way people who are based here front about their situation. So you might go in all your designer kits on the vacation, but actually most of your stuff are Primani on a day-to-day, just as an example. So when you make that move now, and you have to think about making your monthly commitments like everybody else, if you've gone and built that beautiful home or you've managed to get all your furnishings down and everything is set, you still have to navigate that. How are so many of us getting that wrong, where we give off the vibe that it's all good and then we get there, the money can't stretch as far as we thought, because people know how much things are worth.
Yeah, I mean, when you get back there, you kind of re-assimilate back into the society. So I'm no longer in the UK to send you Western Union. I'm now part of you. So you need to see me as one of you now, But if I've gone there to invest, maybe to do some medical missions or create a big company, then that's a different ballgame. We'll still continue to enjoy. But I think the main thing is about impact, the reason why you are going back. You can't take out the fact, say, for instance, millennials, some of them are moving back because of the craze of Afrobeats and what Afrobeats has done for the industry and created more positive vibes towards Nigeria and Africa. So people are saying, okay, I want to tap into the motherland. I want to.
So the same way you'd go to maybe Hollywood for the film career.
Exactly.
If you want to really have an impact in that industry, that's the center for you.
I'm not saying that, but I mean, it's.
But it would be wonderful.
It would be wonderful, yeah. It's for you to connect with the motherland and your roots, and from there, who knows, you can, according to them, blow from there. Now, older people they go back because of their traditional people. Okay, I want to retire back home and die and be buried in my father's house.
Yeah.
So they have those sentiments. So it depends on why you are moving back. Are you moving back to make impact, to create business? Because for me, Nigeria is still a virgin now. They're not technologically advanced like the UK. And if I'm taking back technology, I'm going to be making money. I'm going to be helping the country and so many other things. So it depends on the reason why you are going back. The family bit and giving arms and all that, that's really, really secondary. But if the reason is genuine, then why not?
There is something here, of course, about those younger people who are injecting so much in, from a positive perspective, Babi, about going back and making waves, and maybe not even in the country where their families are from, recognizing that, as Jay said, it's a big old world.
Yeah, for me, for example, my personal experience, I lived abroad in Thailand for a year, and that was somewhere I've never been. I didn't know anyone that was there, but I wanted to experience something different. And being there, I made so many friends from different places around the world. They were black as well, from different ethnic backgrounds as well. But that was something new that I experienced, and then I found out that so many millennials are doing it. So it's not, and Asia as well, they're not technically advanced some parts as the UK or America, but it just changed my way of living, just relaxing more, enjoying the sun, how I was living, how I was taking care of myself, my work ethic. So I feel that a lot of millennials are not just looking at, let me go back home to my mother's country, is where is the best opportunity for me? Exactly. I studied here, for me being in Asia, having a British degree and being studied here, to them was gold. It was like, wow, you speak English, they really loved it. So where can I have a better opportunity for what I studied and my background and in which country. So I think that's how millennials are now thinking. A lot more are going to Dubai, some are going to Africa, some are going to different parts in America. So I think it just depends on the individual, but I think millennials are thinking of different countries too.
Is that because we simply see home now as a more vague concept? It's wherever you pitch your tent.
Yeah, exactly.
The world is a global village.
Yeah, it is.
So you can live anywhere. At first, you're making impact, you're making money.
Yeah.
It's very important. And you feel safe and okay there. Why not? You assimilate. Like she said, she's gone to Bangkok. She didn't know anybody, but she integrated. So just like every other person, if you're Nigerian, you want to move back to Nigeria for Nigerian heritage, you can go do National Youth Service. You see people from different backgrounds, different ethnicities in Nigeria. By the time you spend 3 weeks in camp, you've made new friends. From there you grow. If you're a lawyer, you read law here, you can go to Nigerian law school. 1 year, boom, you're already in fact, I'll be asking you for road science. You understand? That's how it works. So don't be scared to take the risk. Take it, as long as you see potentials, take the risk. If it doesn't work, fine and good. We bless God, you come back.
Yeah, and that was my attitude too.
It's a safety net though. It's a little bit unfair though, isn't it, Jay? Like you can go there, make a pig's hash of everything and then go, well, I still kind of kept a place in London. It seems to me it's missing the spirit of what so many of our forefathers didn't have, as this still keep a foot in here, because worst case scenario, you come couch surf for a few months and then get back into the British way of life. Does that mean that you don't actually end up giving it your best shot if you've made that decision that you're going to be based somewhere else?
I think it wouldn't be wise to not give it your best shot. I think anything you do in life, you need to really, you need to give it 100%. And I think it's a bit dangerous to go to a whole nother country, uproot your life from here and set it down somewhere else and to not make an effort to make it work. I wouldn't think like that. I would hope to think that millennials aren't that stupid, to actually, change their whole way of life and, have to adopt another culture, another traditional value, another area of the world, and to not make an effort. I certainly wouldn't. I would give it my all. And
we focus, sadly, I think in my case anyway, on some of the negatives of that returning journey for our grandparents, for our parents, and maybe for a few of us. If everything was as you needed it to be, could you do it, Bobby?
Yeah, I could. I think I travel all the time, honestly. So I think for me, I feel that I can live anywhere. Somewhere that's good food, good weather, and as long as I can communicate with the people, I will uproot and I can live anywhere. I'm not afraid to go anywhere to explore the possibilities. So for me, definitely.
Could you bring the Kelechi show full time to Nigeria?
Yeah, why not? I mean, like she said, I can live anywhere. First, I'm allowed to practice my religion, my culture, you understand? Very important. My way of life. My dear, why not? I can move anywhere.
Jay, could you kind of take your father's experience?
Do you know what?
Jay, take the risk.
Do you know what?
I'm advising you, life or money. Take
Do you know what? I want to. Eventually, one day. That's why I said earlier that I'd rather be older, because I have a lot of time ahead of me to explore the world and to actually see where it is that fits and my heart takes to. But there are certain places I couldn't live, most definitely. That's just it's just the truth. Certain places I couldn't live.
Because so many of us, perhaps we confuse that 2 weeks in the sun when we're chilling, perhaps with a drink in our hands for real life.
It's not that. For instance, I know that a country like Saudi Arabia, they have a strict Sharia law. And then I'm working in another company, you're paying me thousands of pounds. I shouldn't go there. Yes, I cannot live there, as an entertainer or whatever. But when there's money is talking.
And then take it away.
I'll move there. I will respect myself. He said no alcohol, fam.
All right, I think the idea of Kelechi restraining himself is a good enough note for us to leave on. And that's it from me, Amina Taylor, and my fantastic guests, Babi Issaku, Dr. Kelechi Anyukude, and Jay Lively. And thank you for joining us. And don't forget, every episode of NONI, past and present, is available at yangatv.com. So wherever you are in the world, see what we did? You can see this show and other great content from Yanga. Join us again soon for more entertaining chats. Goodbye.